They could just end up picking a bot lane right now. Senna is available. Renata's also there, but the Calista down, maybe not as high priority. So personally, you could go Senna and then a jungler here. And then you can kind of leave the support until you see what the enemy bot lane is. Because I don't like picking Senna so early. People can pick like heavy scaling lanes into it. And it's actually going to be the Nocturne coming in. So a lot of global pressure from these two picks, but they have done what I've said. They've left that support pick. And now BLG, we'll see what they opt to do in this situation. If they opt to commit to a full bot lane here, or they end up picking up a lane in a different area. The thing is, AL are probably going to want to take the support on 3. So you could take like a top laner for Bin and ban away counters in the second draft phase. A great example would be something like the Gangplank, but they ultimately could just go Ezreal Karma here and kind of play it safe.
Play it safe again, but shouldn't have too much kill pressure, or at least not half as much kill pressure as the Lucian Nami did in the previous game. But they go with the Bard this time around. So
I'd love to. Yes.
You could see a little bit of an extra kind of healing in this bot side. You get that scaling with the Seraphine. It could be a farming Seraphine and a fasting Senna.
Yeah, this is why you don't take Senna because they'll pick something like Ezreal Bard and they just won't opt into the lane. And the defensive ability off that Tom is kind of wasted. You take the Seraphine. This is now a lane that's going to have tons of pushing power, tons of sustain, and mountains of scaling. So, you already know your lane matchup is Ezreal Bard, which isn't really going to give you too much trouble in the 2v2. And AL respond perfectly in this manner. And now we can move into the second ban phase. AL starting to target mid laners. Ahri is still available, so maybe BLG ban that one away, especially with LeBlanc gone. We could see the second ban be Alessandra with the intended 4th pick Ahri for AL.
And I mean, this is, again, we're kind of seeing Anyone's Legend be very happy with where they're taking their draft. They're very quick. They're very confident in how they want to try and respond to this. And this is just, again, putting more eggs into the basket of saying, look, we know the Forge can beat FoFo. We just need to make sure FoFo's not on comfort.
It's been the TF ban. Still, I feel like maybe Ahri for BLG. I think as much as we've seen Alessandra be powerful, it definitely, like, compared to MSI, where Xiaohao is really dominant in that matchup as a counter matchup, hasn't always been necessarily a thing that we've seen come out in the LPL. So we'll see if they opt to go in that direction or they ban another top laner. Kayle is open and available. They will go for that Ahri, will take that one off the cards. Swain is still possible, but bearing in mind Forge showed the Silas was an effective counter. Will they, respect it in that regard, or will they just commit to it?
They might just do that. I will say the Kayle being left up gives Anyone's Legend quite a few options, because if BLG take it, you can't take a counter into it. Of course, we've seen the Nasus come out as a crippling counter to it if you should decide to go for that. But the Swain is locked, and now BLG got to figure out where they want to go. And again, FoFo trying to maybe look to something that has a little bit more global pressure, something that can follow up with something like the Nocturne or the Senna influencing those side lanes.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this, because I feel like into the Swain, you're going to have that early pressure and be able to roam, but you also have a bot lane who wants to leave lane, so you kind of need like a super scaling top laner if you're going to go the Galio. Yeah, I agree with this more. You're going to have early pry on the Azir still. You're going to be able to control lane. You're going to scale very well, and also it's good tools to deal with the potential backline threat. Now, in goes for the blind Gnar, and I feel like this is just a Kayle you can easily take into this. Kayle, or you can go something like the Jace, but we've seen this matchup be really favored for the Kayle.
And I mean, ZDZ's already played Kayle so far the split as well. Looks fantastic on it. Really understood where he could and could not be in team fights. His positioning was immaculate. And this is just, again, feeling like Anyone's Legend have just kind of said, yeah, BLG, no problem. Take what you want. We know that you're going to go for all these different picks, and we're happy to kind of respond into it. I really do feel like Anyone's Legend in this draft have given themselves all the answers, but this time around, BLG have got a lot more utility, a lot more engage available to them to maybe change up the rhythm.
And I feel like BLG have to hit the ground running. Like I said before, AL did need to, and they did, but like BLG, top lane is going to naturally lose over time. It is not a good matchup. Bot lane is going to naturally lose early and get outscaled. Mid, you're going to have prio. Jungle is going to have more impact early. So this mid jungle for BLG has to take over the game. If they don't take over the game, if they don't have that early impact, if they aren't making plays, you will just lose. The one thing I can say is that Azir and Ezreal do have long range to play around, and against like the likes of the Swain and the Kayle, that can be problematic. But that's easily solved by like the Nocturne, the Senna, the Seraphine. What you can see is you can have like the Nocturne flies in, and then like Senna fires the ult on top. Seraphine, if there's any allies between her and Nocturne, can fire the ult. And, if anyone who doesn't know, if you hit an ally or an enemy with the Seraphine ult, it like resets the distance it travels. and it's already like a long-range ultimate. So it basically means that despite the range advantages that BLG have, I still think it won't be enough to shut down AL in the late game. This should be an AL win if they go late. BLG really need to be very crisp on this early game.
They gotta be crisp on the early game. And speaking of crisp, there he is on the Bard here. He's engages. His roams are going to be absolutely pivotal in this early game. If he can get those magical journeys off to maybe set up WeiWei to maybe get behind the mid lane, the top lane, maybe even down towards the bot. So many opportunities available to them. But like you said, BLG, they gotta be proactive. And we do have FoFo actually taking the first strike here on the Azir. So recognizing he will just have an easier laning phase. So he just wants to get that early gold as quickly as possibly can. Just get that harassment down as well. But both teams just happy to fan out, not really giving up too much information. And for anyone's legend, you got to feel like they're very happy to scale up to 6. They can get to level 6 and still be 0-0. I feel like they're going to be very happy with the state of the game.
Yeah, I mean, Kayle becomes so much harder to deal with at 6. Swain becomes so much harder to deal at 6. You suddenly have access to your 2 globals that will... Nocturne's not semi-global, but if he's in the right position, he should be able to block any plays. Betty can fire his ult across the map. It becomes so much more difficult. And on top of that as well, for the bot lane, the Seraphine ult really good at shutting down any plays with that big charm into the stun you can set up on it with your E. So it's going to be problematic for BLG. We'll see what they can do. Now, level 1 for the Ezreal Bard is pretty decent position to be in, but the problem is, like, the Seraphine shoving power is so hard to deal with.
Yeah, you can see already just dropping down that Q, and Betty as well having his available to him makes it so much harder to deal with this. And yeah, like you said, yes, you have a fantastic level 1 here for the bot lane of BLG, but sadly it's been trumped. You know, the game of top trumps, you are going to lose that particular stat check. If you're the second best, sadly, there is still someone better than you. So wait to see what ends up happening there.
Yeah, unfortunately, being the second best team in a league game
yeah.
doesn't bode well.
It's not a great situation to be in, I'll be real. You know, you don't want to be second best in a 2-team race. But,
yeah.
It's a nice way of saying last, but yeah. And again, for BLG, we're gonna be where do you want to see them kind of, you know, set themselves up? We now know where the junglers have started. We now know the paths they're going on. Where do you want to see that activity that you talked about?
So I kind of like ganks in the bot lane. Both of these bot laners are immobile, and you have the Bard magical journey to set up. I will say, I think Bard is more effective on red side because, you know, that big chunk of terrain you can portal through. Very effective and very hard for AL to have vision if they were on blue side themselves. But on this side of the map, the magical journey isn't as effective, but still a powerful tool. So presumably, Betty and Chocho will be pushing the wave quite a bit. Even just if you're trying to trade, you can end up pushing accidentally, and that can put them into a vulnerable position.
We'll see. We are
oh my God,
heavily focusing.
Having fun in this lane.
I was going to say, we are heavily focusing on that top side to make sure we see where the Kayle is doing. And again, Finn did put himself in harm's way. Sadly for him, he was taking a couple of turret shots when he probably didn't need to. And now with WeiWei towards this bot side, looking to see if he can maybe take a scuttle, but sadly for him, scuttle's already been taken. Yeah,
already gone, and I mean, he can head up towards the top side of the map to take that one. But importantly enough, CDZ, this big wave that's coming out, he should be able to crash this. Binner's just TP'd back in, so he can crash this, reset, I would think. And then he's going to be safe from any potential gank from WeiWei when he's up there. We'll see if he gets the timing right. It's kind of funny, we're kind of talking about opposite sides of the map from what they're showing, but important that ZDZ just get that crash in so he's not vulnerable to a gank.
Well, WeiWei does do exactly as you called of him. Xiaohao now sees him there, so the crash should, as you mentioned, come in here for ZDZ. He knows exactly where the enemy jungler is. He is contesting the Raptors. No smite there for Xiaohao, so just waiting for that one to come off of cooldown before he really goes for something. And FoFo gonna have the range advantage against the Swain. As you can see there, ZDZ, he wanted to try and maybe make this one work, but he might have overstepped. That's the problem when you're trying to make the crash work. I feel like this is a bit of an avoidable mistake, an unforced error from ZDZ. He did not need to be here. He knew exactly where WeiWei was. Doesn't give over an assist, but you still get the kill experience when you're in the range.
Yeah, and if you actually looked at the wave, it was gonna bounce back to ZDZ. He was just trying to stay in range for experience, which is so greedy. And like, I can understand you're playing Kayle, everyone's gonna be spamming in chat the little point of the clock, level 4 out of 16. You do want the experience, but not when it costs you your life. He will TP back up and be able to catch the wave. But yeah, just an overstep, punished because of the wave state now. We're gonna have a look at bot lane. Already a plate taken by Betty and Chocho. Doggo just getting harassed under tower, and this isn't really gonna get better anytime soon.
Well, it's still a good start, though, for BLG. The bot lane will have to bear the brunt of it, as we may look at Crisp doing a magical journey. Whee! Almost perfect. You can get. I think you can get right past the inhibitor line there as well.
My favorite thing, and I will say I've done this. I'm not the most proficient on Bard, but is when you see someone sit in base for like 10 seconds or something, trying to line it up and get the maximum magical journey, and it's like, you would have been fast if you just walked.
It's even better when they do take the time to like set themselves up for it and then mess it up, and they don't actually get the setup for it. But ooh, there's gonna be a stun coming out here. Crisp needs to be very careful. He's only just come back, remember, and already down to about a third of his HP. So his bot lane is not getting easier. We also just saw ZDZ hit that level 6 with the range now available for the Kayle. This game is, again, we wanted to see BLG hit the ground running, and yes, they've done well so far, but they need to be a little bit more proactive.
Yeah, they get one kill, but it's not really meant. Oh. Yeah, they got one kill. It didn't really mean ZDZ was punished much. She's still keeping up in experience and farm. Hit level 6 about the same time as Bin. 6 is going to be coming soon for Xiaohao, which is a big spike, and this could be a volatile moment, but Forge has his ultimate, so they feel confident.
They feel confident, but FoFo's also making a bit of a movement down. They do not land the root, but they do get the flash, and this is where the game gets a little bit dicey here for the side of BLG. Do you really want to try and flip this over a dragon? You don't quite have the position here. Crisp has come back in. The dragon down to about 700 HP. They're waiting for the smite to come in, and it will be secured. They will get the never move and drag him all the way back in, and that's going to be WeiWei falling. A magical journey shall be followed here as Forge and Xiaohao feel like they can maybe make something work on the bot side. Crisp has to flash, and Forge again setting his team up for success.
Just beautiful play, confidence in the fact that they have that Swain ultimate, that extra value, that power when it comes to skirmishes. And what I love is the focus on WeiWei. They catch the CC onto him, and a lot of the skirmishing power for BLG would be on the back of this Viego being able to jump into champions, get the resets that obviously can't come through. One, because he isn't even level 6 yet, but also him being the first target to be taken down. And with the dragon in pocket, you know, some people might look at this and say, hey, AL have great scaling. Why are they forcing this so hard? And there is a risk element to it. But ultimately, the thing is here is that because they've secured this early dragon, it gives them so much extra time. If BLG start to find momentum, they're an extra dragon away from Soul. It gives AL more opportunity to lean into the scaling should they need it. And so far, this game's been going pretty well. BLG are going to look for that Herald. We'll see if they get contested on it. Xiaohao not quite 6, but should get off this red buff.
Yeah, should be able to get up to his ultimate here. Betty is in the vicinity as well, but there's a couple of resets coming in for anyone's legends, so not quite sure they're in a position to really go for this contest, and they're just going to leave it go over. So BLG will get themselves the Rift Herald, and again, we saw this in incredibly similar fashion happen in Game 1. AL focusing those dragons, knowing that they can get those scaling picks going for them, but BLG saying we'll get the Rift Herald, but Rift Heralds weren't exactly profitable for BLG in the first game. They need to be a lot more, I would say, careful with how they put them down and a lot more mindful of where they're doing it.
Yeah, and also Rift Herald's actually very hard to use against AL's composition because one, setting up a dive is quite hard when both solo laners have those fantastic ultimates of preventing dives. And the other thing is Xiaohao and the Nocturne. All Xiaohao needs to do is not get spotted on vision. As long as he's not seen on the map, BLG can't really get a good Herald, because if Xiaohao turns up, they fight you and they defend the tower. It's really unfavorable.
It's unfavorable. The flash forward, the spear is going to land, and ZDZ will pick up the spoils. BLG did not know where the Nocturne was, and just like you said, they get punished.
Well, I will say, my intention was hold the Nocturne ult to be able to deny good Herald usage. Wait, Xiaohao just says, no, I don't care. I want to kill on a bin. I want to get my Kayle ahead. And the counterpoint to this is BLG trying to look for some potential Herald, but if you actually look, WeiWei isn't in a position to do anything, so not able to make that cross-map play, not able to punish the bot lane, means AL get away with this one pretty easily and get that free kill.
I mean, man, the longer we watch this series, the longer we see AL play, the more excited to go. This is just, again, good read on Bin saying, look, he's exhausted. He doesn't have the Mega Gnar. We can just go for this.
Yeah, and flashes, but I guess his E was on cooldown. This might be why the play came in, because you'd think with flash and his leap, he'd be able to make enough distance, but clearly didn't have it available Must have used it in an earlier trade or to get away from ZDZ, and it ends up really punishing. So good communication between ZDZ and Xiaohao to set this up. Now, we will see BLG have really good control on the bot side river. In fact, their vision on the river in general is pretty solid. And that does mean they're trying to move between lanes and find windows to go for a Herald play. It looks like they might opt for a mid lane Herald play. It feels like Xiaohao is expecting a bot, which is why he's shadowing. But BLG move quickly up towards the mid lane. We'll throw it down here. This won't take the tower, but it will put the mid tower pretty low and get a bunch of gold to FoFo.
Yep, get a bunch of gold over to the Azir, get him scaling up, which is exactly what you want to be seeing, but only actually 3 plates, so we take those at the end of it all. 3 plates going over for the side of BLG, and 1 more Herald push, should they be able to secure the next one, would mean that that tower should fall. WeiWei and Crisp now walking around as a bit of a death ball composition. They have got access to the Tempered Faith and, of course, the Heartbreaker as well, so should they find an opportunity to dive onto this Kayle, they might actually go for it, but it's very difficult to do so right now. That Kayle already has got the steel-plated toe caps and also got himself the ultimate, so very difficult to actually take him down.
Look at the cost, though, bot lane. You know, Crisp is playing this bard. You want to roam, you want to make plays happen. You're just losing plates. Doggo's getting shoved in on the tower. And not only that, but Chocho's getting the farm. Betty's getting the soul value. Both of them scaling up to be really exceptional. It's not, that's the thing with the Tahm Kench, is that, like, he will be a bit stronger than normal because he gets farm. But it's not that big of a deal. A fully farmed Seraphine is a absolute menace to face up against. And now we're at the point where, you know, Xiaohao has paranoia again. So any play BLG goes for, there is the risk they will be answered.
Again, mentioned it a little bit earlier, the more I'm seeing Anyone's Legend play in this series, the more I'm getting excited for this roster. They are just playing so cohesively together, and it is really great to see. We talk about some of the great rosters in the LPL, of course, RNG, EDG, the world champions as well. So, but I love seeing these smaller rosters, these smaller teams coming in, making their moves, trying to find what works for them, and it working. They're not over-forcing anything. They're just playing exceptionally well to how they want to play the game. And this is, again, going to be another dragon going over, as we can see a little bit of an all-in here on top of ZDZ, but he's already a level 10 Kayle. It's going to be fine for him to pick up this wave. And yeah, Anyone's Legend, they're just playing smarter.
Yeah, they might end up fishing for a dive here. Kayle still has the ultimate, but I feel like they should be able to pull this off pretty convincingly. They don't have the bard, the Gnar ultimate, sorry, so kind of comes down to Crisp to land the CC.
FoFo was making his way up, but the wave hasn't
Xiaohao's
crashed
moving.
just yet. Xiaohao is moving. He will be able to get the Tempered Fate down onto the tower, so they can go for it right now. There's going to be the ultimate as the Divine Judgment from ZDZ trying to keep him alive, but not long enough. They will be able to secure that kill onto the Kayle, but a lot had to be used.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I feel like ZDZ made a bit of a mistake there. I could see he was trying to position so he wouldn't get stunned. I think he should have just eaten the bard ult, right? But it would have allowed him to buy more time before he had to ultimate.
Gives him invulnerability.
Yeah, exactly. And then that might have been enough time for Xiaohao to get there, for Forge to be in range, to pop his W. So maybe a bit of a misplay from ZDZ. But we see the punish come out from BLG. They're going to be able to get some plates for Bin, but in return, they lose that bot lane tier 1. They lose the first tower. They won't even take this tower in the top lane. And at the end of the day, this is a Kayle. You know, you can set them back, but ZDZ is still going to become a monster later on.
But do you run it back? That's the question right now. Do you know that Crisp and WeiWei are just going to sit here in topside? Well, now you don't have your ultimate. You don't have the Dawning Shadow, and you don't care if this Kayle's going to be underneath the tower because you will stun him up, you will ignite him down, and WeiWei will pick you up. That is just a little bit of disrespect there from ZDZ. He did not cross his T's and did not dot his I's.
Yeah, and overstay. Xiaohao moves down towards the bot lane, and ultimately this is the value BLG need to be getting. Those early plays, the bard roaming to find success. But the problem is, AL picked up that second dragon. AL are a bit down in gold, but they are going to be so much stronger later on. And you think about the win cons for BLG, this Mountain Soul would have been a fantastic contributor, but you're so far away from it. The earliest we can see a Mountain Soul for BLG's 32 minutes. That is just far too late in the game.
Yeah, it's just not going to really be realistic for them in that point. So BLG, they got to stop the stack though from Anyone's Legend, because again, as much as the Mountain Soul would have been fantastic, or will still be, could be fantastic for BLG, it's just as good for the side of Anyone's Legend. Them with a Mountain Soul able to keep this Senna and Seraphine combination going, especially when we start to come to those 5v5s where those combos of the ultimates are there, that's when this game gets a lot scarier for the side of BLG. They are having a much stronger early game this time around. Got themselves about a 1300 500 gold lead at the moment, taking away that second Herald as well, as first items start to get completed across the board.
Yeah, I think, honestly, the Mountain Soul would be fantastic for AL. One big reason is the way teamfights kind of want to play out for BLG is they kill a target as soon as possible and start getting resets, and also to lose Seraphine value. One thing to think about with Seraphine is she has the big AoE shield. The more units that are alive, the more passive procs she gets, the more value she's getting with every W press. And so if you're able to kill a target, she's only hitting 4 targets instead of 5, and then 3 targets instead of 5, you know? And you're also getting the resets on a WeiWei. So Mountain Soul, if it can prevent someone being picked off, it's going to make AL so much harder to deal with when they're already going to be really difficult to deal with. A minute 50 till Dragon. I feel like BLG have to find an opportunity, a window to contest this. And I think it might just be picks, right? Playing around that Bard, playing around the ultimate, the Tempered Fate to catch someone off guard, especially like Betty or QiuQiu, who are immobile.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. A minute and a half. You will have pretty much all summoners available for both sides of this particular matchup. Level 11, though, for ZDZ, so he's going to start scaling up very nicely. Should be able to go back after finishing his Cole and get his Kraken Slayer as well. So this is where the game gets a little bit harder for the side of BLG. They're all of a sudden on a timer now. This Kayle is starting to scale. This bot lane combination is getting ridiculous as well. And with Betty having the access to the Umbral Glaive, this makes it so much harder to maintain vision control because you can just take it away so quickly.
Yeah, it's such an obnoxious item, honestly, is the way I'm going to put it, especially when you're playing against so much potential pick, potential CC from AL. I know we talked about the pick potential of BLG, but also goes in the other direction. A Seraphine and ultimate out of the fog of war, the Nocturne ultimate as well, if you don't have vision of who's around, could be so devastating. And what I really like is...
Look at that! Just to clear the entire area by herself.
It's so strong. And that's without even using the Umbral Glaive passive, which is back up again. You can just bounce between the sweeper and that. In fact, if you actually look, so normally teams will switch to like a sweeper and the jungler. And Xiaohao actually doesn't have one because they... Oh, there's the pick attempt.
The Tempered Fate no longer there, but they will get the CC down onto Betty, and Betty will be killed off. Now, the Nocturne ultimate comes out, but Forge is in the top side, and it doesn't look like he really wants to go for this fight anymore. They will get the magical journey out and flash forward. There's going to be the encore. But it's not going to be enough to keep this Seraphine alive. BLG, they find the picks that you were talking about, and they make it work.
Yeah, even though the bottle doesn't connect, Betty gets a bit overzealous. You don't have your mid laner here. You don't have the anti-dive threat up to Swain. You don't have the Kayle nearby. And yet he's looking to try and make a pick on a Crisp. Ends up backfiring. And as a result, BLG going to be able to secure that dragon, deny the soul stacking from AL, going to be able to get mid tier 1 and a bunch of gold as well. And we said they needed that momentum. This mid-game point where the Ezreal was starting to spike, an absolutely ideal circumstance to be getting these leads.
Absolutely. It is an Essence Reaver start, though, for the side of Doggo, so he's going to be waiting to get his Mythic. But let's have a look here. Like I said, this is just, again, Tempered Fate misses. You can just back away from this. You don't need to go for this pick onto Crisp, and then he just gets caught out.
Yeah, gets caught in the stun. Basically just dead, but like, ZDC's only just arriving, wasn't in range to ult. Forge was recalling. You know, it's just poor for Mayal. No reason to be opting into that situation. And then QiuQiu ends up being caught out as well, pays for with his life on top of that.
Yeah, well, 2 kills went over. They also did secure the dragon and got themselves a mid lane turret, so there's quite a few bit of objectives going over. About a 4,000 gold lead coming out now for BLG, and this is exactly what we wanted to see for them. This is exactly how we wanted to see them play this game, because this is what they need to do in order to kind of, you know, come out with the series. Don't forget, they're still 1-0 down in this. If they lose this game because it's outscaling or because the Kayle becomes too big of an issue, that's the series over at 2-0, and that's going to be pretty bitter pill to swallow for the side of BLG, but they're not out of it just yet. They are starting to get that Gnar into an absolutely unholy position. We actually haven't really talked about it, but 40 CS ahead of this Kayle, a Chemtech Chainsword already ahead. So it's really becoming obnoxious for ZDZ to try and be in a side lane, but it's only temporary.
Yeah, he will eventually outscale him in the side. And it is this AD Kayle. I kind of prefer the AP Kayle in a lot of situations, but you can kind of talk about the difference between the two builds. With the AP Kayle, you get... Oh, I'll hold that thought. See what happens here.
We're going to see what happens. They do get the Nocturne ult to try and dissuade this. There's a TP coming in off this as well. There is the Emperor's Divide still available for FoFo, as he's got the Shurima's Legacy to stop anyone from re-engaging. They almost catch themselves a little bit of a pick here for BLG, but they don't gain anybody in terms of kills, and you can see the healing coming out now in a second. It's going to be able to top up everybody nicely.
Yeah, but a lot of ultimates burn from the side of AL. They don't have the Seraphine ultimate, don't have the paranoia. It does limit their effectiveness. And they're kind of just playing this defensive game, trying to hold the siege at the moment. But Forge...
Ooh, Crisp does have to go into his Zonya's. Broken his stopwatch now, as perfect timing does its job. And BLG recognize maybe they don't want to stay here for too much longer. They're a bit too close to those fine margins of throwing the lead they already have. They back themselves away, but this is giving an opportunity. You can see already AL are just kind of forcing it towards this mid lane, saying, look, we might be able to take this turret.
Yeah, Doggo TP's in, but look, Ping's coming out for a potential flank. Bin is walking over, and FoFo could go for the biggest shuffle ever right now. He is TPing behind. They're looking for this.
They're looking for it. Forge is a little bit separated from the rest of his team. He's going to get isolated if he's not quite careful. As we can see now, FoFo finally makes himself known. The flash is not quite there. Xiaohao cannot stop his mid laner from getting caught out from the true shot barrage. That's going to be Forge dead now to this game. They might look just for the big purple worm. BLG, they're trying to kill this momentum that AL thought they had.
Yeah, and you see BLG are doing a fantastic job of pushing the game forwards, trying to make things happen. It's completely understandable. They need to do this. And so they're going to go for this Baron. There's no vision in the pit right now. They will get it from the ultimate.
And now, here they go. He goes in for the steal. Stolen! And he gets himself off the back end of it as well. The shuffle was awful, but the tempered fate is beautiful. 3 people have been caught right now, but can you get any of these kills on the backside? ZDZ will fall down, but will Chris be able to catch anybody else? He's going a little bit too far forward. Needs to be very careful. These are very low health bars. FoFo, he gets himself away with the shuffle, and BLG might have been able to do it. They're so low. They just keep themselves alive. And anyone's legend. They had the Baron. They got the steal, but they may have lost themselves a couple more Barons on the back of it.
Yeah, they really did not need to overstay there. Betty got so greedy flashing in. Oh, he's going to try and burst Bin.
Then, oh, he gets some. No, he doesn't. Doggo
Man.
keeps his top laner alive. All you needed to do was just get your reset off there, Betty. At the end of it all, it's only 1 Baron buff, but it's on the guy who stole it in the first place.
Yeah, and this ends up being an overstay. Forge holds his ultimate the whole time here because he knows they're just trying to get out. They don't really want to fight here. The TP flank comes in, and yeah, Forge again, completely overextended. You can see the rest of the team are wanting to back away. They keeps looking for these trades to try and get some extra movement speed, maybe for the mandate proc. Xiaohao does flash away, and him being up is so pivotal when it comes to this moment. We get the blue trinket that comes out and the ultimate to give full information so he can dive in. There's nothing you can do to stop the Nocturne getting in. They try and shuffle to knock him out, but that just ends up saving him. I will say, though, this follow-up play, Betty, man, this was questionable. So they are out at this point. CDC just died, but the rest of them can just get away and keep walking. And then they start to turn around damage, and Betty flashes in to try and go for it, and that just basically means everyone else is committed. QiuQiu gets bursted trying to protect his AD carry, you know, and then once again Betty is out here. He could have just recalled with a Baron buff, but instead he tries to pick Bin, fails, and dies. So Xiaohao played fantastically. Betty, don't do that.
Yeah, Betty kind of getting a little bit overzealous in that particular play. And again, I got to say, for Xiaohao, he kept his team in it. That Baron buff steal is actually massive. It won't lead to anything in favor of anyone's legend, but it will stop them from getting pushed in. The Baron buff power coming into this composition would be absolutely huge, especially before ZDZ does hit that, you know, second item in the level 16 phase. And honestly, I got to say, the Kayle was the last pick to come in for anyone's legend, but it has been shut down. 1 and 4, 50 CS down, or maybe even about 40 behind the Gnar, and really not having the same impact that we expected to.
Look at the clock. Level 14. And again, I brought this point up earlier. I'm not sure. I didn't get to finish it because the fight started, and it looks like as soon as I bring the point up, the same thing happens. No, okay. Paranoia is going to cover. Cool. So basically, with the AP Kayle, your ult does more damage, more AoE damage. Your W gives more movement speed and healing. And ultimately, you have a lot of burst with the AP build, but the AD build has a bit more DPS, so you need to consistently auto with this build. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of it here, but that's essentially the thought process that comes through, is that like the DPS of the AD one is what holds supreme. I still think the utility you get from AP and the burst gives it. I prefer it, but we've obviously seen, I think, more AD kills in the LPL than AP so far this split.
Yeah, again, personal preference, you know, to each their own, I suppose, but we are starting to slowly but surely get to there. ZDZ still hasn't finished off his second item. That is just really hurting him right now. He needs to get up to this item to try and really kind of have a moment to kind of go for any sort of consistent split wave push or split lane push. But the legacy of Shreema being popped up into that mid lane, but it's again very hard to siege on this. Yes, you have got the Ezreal and the Azir for poke, but aside from that, you're actually relatively short ranged here as the side of BLG. Very difficult for them to actually make any meaningful damage.
Yeah, and that's why the Baron buff would have been so big for them. But obviously, AL managed to steal away, essentially denying it from them. And on top of that, this is why the Seraphine is so big compared to the Tahm Kench, is the wave clear. This Seraphine can kind of just sit mid and annihilate waves almost endlessly.
3 items.
It makes it so hard to do anything without that Baron. And it just means they can continue the stall of the game out as long as they want. And you got to think about the dragons as well. The fact AL got those first 2 dragons, the LG would already have soul by now. We'd be looking at 3 minutes until Elder. So AL, as much as they're behind in gold, they've done everything they can to stall this game out. And they're just going to look to continue to do so until they get to the point where they hit critical mass and BLG can't deal with them.
Wits End finished up, level 15 for ZDZ
away.
well. You got a minute till Baron, at 2 minutes until Dragon. You've got to feel like Baron's going to be the big one here for BLG. That could be, as you mentioned earlier, a big game changer, a big game ender, should they be able to secure themselves that buff, and they are doing exceptionally well at keeping up their vision. And right now, ZDZ, you can see him. He just wants to get as many waves into him as possible. He knows he's so damn close to it. He's about a third of the way, so maybe 6, 7 more waves, he should be fine, but he needs to get as much as he possibly can.
Yeah, but again, it's just a matter of not playing too aggressively. Dragon's in a minute 30. I don't think ZDZ will have level 16 by that point. You can see he's just been zoned off this wave. He doesn't want to push over and overextend. So BLG should get that 3rd dragon. We'll see if AL do opt to contest it, but I think they probably just want to wait until the big spikes.
Oh, Tempered Fate comes out. That's WeiWei looking for something here. They get the flash and the ultimate out of Betty and Chocho respectfully. And that's big cooldowns coming out now. Minute till this dragon, 10 seconds till Baron. BLG are still the ones putting this pace down, putting down the pressure on top of anyone's legend.
One downside, though, is this build from the Seraphine. It's like the super heavy ability haste build, right? The mythic passive from the Leandries gives ability haste. All your items give ability haste. The ult will be up in not too much time. Do you see BLG posturing? It's so hard, though, because remember, they have the W, the Visions of Empire from Forge to check on quite a short cooldown. If you look across, they have... I think that's 3 blue trinkets. I think CDZ uses a blue trinket, yeah. They have so many ways of checking this Baron. And as long as BLG aren't doing it, they don't really care. Now, BLG are setting up for this 3rd dragon, but it is only the 3rd. It's not the soul. AL can just wait and give it up if they need.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's what they're going to do right now. They're just, again, pushing ZDZ closer and closer to level 16. He should be about, I think, maybe a half just above it, so 1/3, and he's going to try and soak up this wave. And this is where the game gets a little bit scary. All of a sudden, we're starting to hit critical mass. BLG will pick up their 3rd dragon. It will put them on Mountain Soul. And again, this is 3 Mountain Drakes stacked up on top of each other, so those resistances are nothing to be sniffed at.
Yeah, the resistances are nice. But ultimately, they don't have a super tank who's really going to get a ton of value. But don't get me wrong, especially with the Joe changes, they're relevant for everyone. But it's not like AL are really lacking for damage, is something I'll say. As long as the soul would make a heavy amount of difference, right? The extra shield, I think, really powerful. But still, AL have more time. Gold lead, about 5,000, but still manageable. You got to think of the value the Senna's getting from the souls. Currently at 100 souls. Definitely I think I've seen 120 at this point, maybe a little bit higher. So definitely got the most in this game. But still, it's going to get worse and worse. The range is going to become super significant.
All right, set me up. We've obviously got Baron up, 4.5 minutes until that Dragon Soul is available for BLG. How do BLG force the issue? Because right now, sieging down mid lane, this ARAM ain't working.
Yeah, sweep vision, I think, is the ultimate thing. And then look for picks. Betty has no flash. If you land a bard ultimate onto him, he will just die. So fish for that opportunity, get the pick, translate it into a Baron.
They may look for it right now. We are going to see Forge pop into his ultimate there as they get the paranoia going straight down on the FoFo, who backs himself away. A flash from Xiaohao, and he gets the ultimate from the Kayle super early. So 3 massive ultimates, actually 4 massive, all ultimates
5
down on anyone's legends. Yeah, so not only that, they also lose the flash from Xiaohao, and now this could be an opportunity for BLG. You got to still respect this poke and this damage coming out, though, from anyone's legend. It's still very significant, and with the Senna and the Seraphine, they can heal up for days.
Yeah, they have all the sustain, and ultimately they can't get that mid tier 2 still. I will say AL kind of fumbled that one. The Kayle ult coming in and the flash from Xiaohao. But now Bin's in trouble.
Bin's in a lot of trouble. He gets feared and rooted down. They tried to start the Baron, but they can't keep on it. They knew they need to keep this Gnar alive. Not quite able to get it just yet. They are still trying to proc it over the wall here.
Blue trinket wards are in there.
I was gonna say,
they still have more tools.
Level 16 for ZDZ. He just about hit it, and now he's on massive power spike right here, and they can't continue this. They've taken too much poke. BLG, have they waited too long?
Maybe. It's definitely feeling rough. And you can see how tentative they are. The ult's coming up available again for AL. Xiaohao with his paranoia would be able to get in the pit. You do not want to flip the Baron once more. And it's that W from the Swain, the Visions of Empire, literally giving you visions of BLG. You can see them whenever they're going for the Baron. Woo! Big ult comes out. Gonna chunk Betty. He does have to sustain, so he doesn't even have to reset. Now, Dragon in 240. I think AL are at the point where they can feel confident to fight it. Forge on that 3-item spike has the Rylai's mandate combo and has the Zhonya's as well to buy more time in his ultimate. And ultimately, ZDZ also has the rapid fire. So with that level 16 extra range, also has the empowered rapid fire range. Can really connect on the targets you wouldn't otherwise be able to.
Oh, this game is starting to get real tense all of a sudden. I will say BLG have put themselves in a nice position where if they don't feel comfortable forcing around that dragon, they can just leave it go. It's the third.
You say that. I know time's ticking, right? I feel like they have to get this soul.
They have to get the soul. They had to go for something. But Forge, maybe going to try and find out, see if he can catch out the Bard. But the magical journey will push him back. Paranoia was used, but there's a tempered fate. Actually gets eaten up. I'm not quite sure by what, but it doesn't actually land onto absolutely anybody. Xiaohao keeping himself away and Bin trying to look for a flank before he goes into the Mega Forge. Has got his ultimate popping, but he's not really in a position to fight this one. He goes golden alongside having the ultimate. He's still alive, but finally will fall. But look at ZDZ trying to position himself to be able to keep everybody at bay. FoFo looks for him. He's not quite able to get the Shrimmer Shuffle, and now he's in a terrible position. Bin does get the kill onto QiuQiu, but this kill is still huge. Double kill coming in for ZDZ. The Heartbreaker is just that for anyone's legend as this Kayle will fall. Great flash there from Betty, and he's continuing to go forward. They're not quite landing the CC, and he gets another one down. WeiWei in so much trouble, and Betty saves it. Triple kill for the AD carry of anyone's legend.
And I flamed him before, but in that fight, he was on point. Betty constantly repositioning, finding new angles, getting the damage down. ZDZ as well, able to do the damage on the Kayle. Massive team fight for the side of AL, and we'll get the replay. And I gotta say, once more, AL kind of, a little bit of a misplay when it comes to the timing with the Kayle ultimate. We end up having Forge kind of away, Betty, ZDZ, and QiuQiu wrap around the other side. They're creating space. And then Forge, it's the Zhonya's Kayle at the same time. I guess just the communication wasn't there, but we don't get time, I think, to see this. We have to look at the replay where they're going for the Baron, and there's going to be a fight. So yeah, we saw the fight already. Let's see how this happens.
The TP from FoFo, he doesn't have flash. He has ultimate to try and keep himself away, but they've already jumped down onto Bin, who's already got himself away. And that's just a great collapse. Now you know that FoFo's dead. That consistent damage no longer available. Bin needs to get Mega. They need to get himself in the pit. You can see that the great ultimate there with the Tempered Fate, the ultimate from Ezreal as well, peppers down these health bars, but the Baron's been secured. Bin almost going Mega, and anyone's legend, they want to get out.
They got it. They got what they wanted. They can head over to the Dragon as well. BLG just won't be able to contest this. And we were talking about critical mass. We said it non-stop. AL hit it. They forced a fight before the Mountain Soul was really on the cards. And now BLG will be denied it. And yes, this isn't soul for AL. But the fact that they are not picking it up, the fact that BLG aren't secure in this, I feel like the game has gone on too long. Level 17 for ZDZ. And Betty, importantly enough, was like 3-4 levels down on Doggo. Has started to catch up on this Senna. Is really putting out so much damage in these fights.
He really, really is. You can see ZDZ now getting towards that Lord Dominic's regard as well. So just going to be an absolute monster. I don't think anyone could really fight against him, and especially when no one has any real armor to try and, step up to him. You talked about the armor or the AD versus AP build. Feel like the AD build will just be a lot more potent, especially when no one's actually building resistances. So BLG, they might have just waited again, like you said, a little bit too long, and I think it might just be too little too late.
Yeah, it feels really difficult from this position. Banshees on QiuQiu and Edge of Night on Betty. We kept saying the goal with the bottle was to pick these two off, land the Tempered Fate on them. With the Banshees and with this double spell shield effects, it gets so much harder. You can't just throw it out. You have to proc it first. And you do see they have been able to proc both of them. That does mean AL's bot lane will probably just back away.
How much is that turret
play
on?
a bit safer, but it is so difficult for them to find windows in.
How much is that turret health on? It looked like it was on single digit there. We didn't actually quite get the observer clicking on it, so I wasn't able to confirm it. But Betty picks up a red buff, and the siege shall continue. You still have Baron for a minute 18 there for anyone's legend, and they will try and utilize that with a little bit of a side lane pressure. And this is the great thing about the Nocturne. Yes, both your teleports are down on your solo laners, but he's got his level 16 paranoia. His paranoia range is basically from top to mid, so he's going to be able to join pretty much any fight should he be needed.
And this tower's, this tower's going for sure. Ult comes
Has
through.
to be.
Does actually proc the spell shield from Betty, but not from QiuQiu. I think BLG just need to try and find a fight whenever possible. They need to just make something happen. It's probably going to be in a rough spot, but if you wait, might just only get worse.
Yeah, you're going to get poked out. This damage from the Kayle, every time you get a rapid fire cannon proc, it just becomes harder and harder. There's going to be a great tempered fate, and they're separated, so Forge might be in trouble, but he goes immediately into stasis. You can already see the Heartbreaker defensively from WeiWei. Is good. They're going to keep pushing forward on top of this. FoFo does not get any real value out of this, and FoFo, or Forge I should say, is just huge right now in the middle of everybody, and they waited too long. Anyone's legend have basically congratulated themselves into the late game.
And I saw Bin with a big ultimate. He saw the opportunity, and then he only knocks Forge into his own team. Definitely not the play you're looking for. And Critical Mass has been hit. We passed it, and now AL are looking to try and close this game out. BLG, it's just the bot lane to defend, and I don't think they have it in them.
They've only got themselves a Bard, an Ezreal, and a Dream. If they can make it work, it would have to be now, but CDZ is too big. That paranoia on such a low cooldown, they can decide to dive on top of him if they so choose. They can just ignore the Bard, who's looking to try and kill the minions. But the Nexus turrets have fallen. The Nexus will go down. Anyone's legend 2-0 on the day, and you can see how much that means to them.
Absolutely massive. Real big upswing. A lot of people looking at BLG, as much as they had a shaky spring, still being one of these stacked rosters that is difficult. A litmus test in the LPL. The weaker rosters sometimes just cannot handle the star power, even if BLG don't always fit together. But AL, this was a fantastic series. Game one, knew they had to get that lead, found it. The bot lane performed admirably. But in this game two, it's so easy to look at this and think, oh, BLG just didn't do anything. But I think the draft really made sense for AL. And then on top of that, it was them slowing the game down. They got the 2 early dragons. They were so firm on contesting those. And then they were able to give up 3 dragons to BLG without concern. They gave themselves time to scale. They played around their blue trinkets, the W from the Swain, to just make sure Baron didn't happen. There was that steal from Xiaohao, but ultimately they bought themselves enough time until the game was just in their hands.
Yeah, and again, massive props to anyone's legend. They dominated game one with an absolutely fantastic game plan and execution. Game two, much rockier, but like you mentioned, they drafted very smartly. They said, look, if this goes super late, which BLG tend to like it to do. FoFo is the king of late game carries, the Azir, his most, kind of famous pick, if you will. And they had the answers. They said the Kayle, the Seraphine, these things are going to be so much more powerful than just your Azir. And it is exactly that. BLG took too long. BLG just couldn't put to bed the game. And it ended up being that, honestly, I think the most pivotal moment has to be that Baron steal from Xiaohao at the 25, 26 minute mark was huge to kind of just stall out the game.
And I think that the way you can just identify this whole series is AL was smarter, better prepared. I think individually, we've said this time and time again, BLG are still really strong, but it felt like the game plan was there for them. They understood what they had to do. So many times in draft, they gave themselves significant advantages. The fact that they took the Senna and left the Tom, so many teams would just lock Senna Tom, and then they'd get answered by Ezreal Bard and be like, oh, well, I guess Bard takes over the map and we get a Tom Kench with a bit of farm late game. But no, they leave it so they have the Seraphine option. They take it to punish. Doggo got shut down on lane, couldn't do anything. They got a ton of gold. And then when it came to those team fights, BLG, I feel like they came in a game with a difficult task to undertake, and then they just weren't able to do it with some excellent play from AL. I am really hyped about AL after this game.
Like, they're just looking so good. They're honestly looking cohesive. They look like they're smart. As you mentioned, they came in with plans, and I'm just loving the diversity that we're seeing from them as well. The big thing for me is, like you said, QiuQiu was one of those big engaged supports. We're now seeing him play those enchanters on multiple different levels. The Seraphine, of course, in that last game, and the Nami in game one. So this is a team that has options. This is a team that doesn't just pigeonhole themselves into one style. And for anyone's legend, this is a great start. 2-1 already in the season, and you've played against some like pretty decent, you know, you've already beaten RA 2-0. That would be another playoffs contender. BLG today 2-0. You know, like these are not bad teams, or these are not, you know, easy wins, quote unquote, to be coming up against. This is a great start.
100%. I think the meta suits him as well. My concern was QiuQiu in this meta. We've clearly shown he's super efficient, but the fact that, you know, BLG couldn't do those similar plays we'd see in Spring, dive, set up in the top lane on picks like the Kayle. Obviously, you wouldn't see the Kayle in Spring, but like the fact that the game is harder to push forwards, even though BLG were trying, they couldn't do so. And they at one point had 6,000 gold lead. It just didn't matter. Look how much damage Doggo and FoFo did compared to the counterparts. Did not matter. The sustain was there. The numbers mean nothing. It's all about who got the win at the end, and AL knew exactly what they had to do. This was not like, oh, what will be fun? Well, oh, wouldn't it be great if we start a fight and we win or something like that? It was no. This is how we win. We do nothing but this. That was the exact game plan for them. And as a result, BLG was just completely stonewalled.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of the stats you saw there was 3 towers to 7, despite a 6,000 gold lead. That wasn't really coming from towers taken or structures of any kind from the side of BLG. It was winning team fights. It was getting CS leads. And that was the big issue that we saw for them coming into that mid to late game, was that, yes, you have an Ezreal and Azir, incredibly powerful, but you don't really have a sieging power.
Whoa.
You needed that Baron so much.
Just want to call your attention. Crisp 171.8 vision score. I think that's the highest we've seen.
Wow. That's impressive. It's even more impressive. Yeah, I was gonna say it's even more impressive when you think that there was an Umbral Glaive, you know, Betty Senna on the other side who was just clearing it.
I think that might be a factor. Is that, oh, I placed like 5 wards. Oh, they're gone. Okay, place 5 more. Oh, they're gone.
Quickly reset and get my wards back.
Yeah, just constant resets, and yeah, ultimately BLG still leaving